live. Welcome to Life Action Roleplay with
Kai
and
Cynthia Marie
and Omega. And with us today is James Schlochter from Ancient Archives Apparel, on audio. Hi, James.
Hello.
All right. And brought to you by, what drinks do we have today?
Water! Yay!
Water.
I think all of us are going cold turkey right now.
Yeah, I think in time for the seasonal holidays. By the time this comes out, it will be December 20th.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I would be 32 already.
Oh,
Yay.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Lies.
I'll be 32.
All right, so brought to you by water because we're trying to go for the clean stuff.
Well, we're probably going to drink during the holiday, so we're trying to, clear out the system
Pace
now.
ourselves.
Yeah.
We're doing this, pre-purge kind of thing.
Pre-purge.
Trying to surprise the kidneys.
Surprise the kidneys.
Yeah. It's called shock therapy.
And shout-outs. Do we have any shout-outs that you want to give today?
I do.
All right.
So, had a really rough game with Lysandra this weekend. So my shout-out is to Poisel, who was on our show not too long ago. So sending my love and support to Poisel, because we had a really rough game.
Wow. Kai, any shout-outs from you?
I do. Due to some unforeseen events, I was actually going to be going off to a pretty cool LARP event this weekend, but it didn't really line up, unfortunately. But I'd like to give a shout-out to Steve Meyer, who is the guy running this zombie survival game. It's Dystopia Rising, which I've talked about before, but this is one of the national level events that's going to be a really interesting try for them. It's called Equinox, and it's going to be held over this weekend in Pittsburgh, where they've got this entire old abandoned school, and then a whole bunch of cameras for those of us at home to kind of watch on a Twitch feed and watch people play and get chased around this horror high school for a while. If I don't see at least 3 swirlies and 2 people locked in lockers, I'm going to be very disappointed. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that and stuff, so that's my shout out.
All right, and my shout out is to Izzy Spring, who is a player at Twin Mask. She's actually been wanting to play Twin Mask for 5 years, joined a few months ago, and she loved games so much that she initiated LARP Friendsgiving for Thanksgiving. So she created an independent atmosphere at her place with her parents, where we got to role play a Thanksgiving feast with a few antics and a few games. And she did this literally out of the love of the group and LARPing, and she's only done it for a few months. And
it was
so
pretty awesome.
Yes, such an awesome thing to do. Again, only playing a few months.
This kind of touches on a point that I feel is really important for a healthy LARP game, and it's much more with LARP and really any kind of close-knit group of nerds and friends and things like that. There are these groups that tend to label themselves more it's more game than community, and then there are the really important ones that are much more, no, this is a community that is playing a game. It's kind of like I've heard a phrase about Magic the Gathering before. It's much more about the gathering than the magic. And the community is very important. And Izzy is definitely a prime example of someone who has only been here a little bit for Twin Mask. And in the brief amount of time that she's shown up, she's showed huge amounts of compassion and passion and enthusiasm, and has been fast making friends. And I disagree with anyone that will turn around and say that these types of interactions and healthy environments are not healthy, because they obviously are. They bring people really close together.
And so we wanted to bring in our guest for today. Really excited. I don't know even where to start to introduce.
Start with his name, since he already talked.
All right. So joining us today is Grant Imahara with the White Rabbit Project and Mythbusters.
That's right.
And Star Trek Continues.
Yep.
And guest appearance on League of Steam and so many other things within our geek friend circles. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. It's
Oh.
great to be here.
Yay.
Hey. So, in bringing Grant here, I think one of the big things we were trying to figure out is, what do we talk about?
We have so many things. We have so many questions, Grant.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I have many
I
answers,
mean, yeah.
I think.
Yes.
But because this is live action roleplay about LARP, we had a little pre-interview with Grant, and it turns out that you have had a lot of LARP adjacent experiences, if at least 2 LARPs
Yeah.
under your belt.
Yeah.
And like you've also been to Labyrinth of Jareth,
Yes.
and you also mention the zombie episode from Mythbusters.
That's true.
So we're going to cover a whole lot of these things today.
Yes.
Yep, plenty to talk about.
Where do we want to start?
We start with the LARP adjacent experiences, and not having been on, I guess, a proper LARP, you could consider these analogous to, instead of a whole D&D campaign, it would be a one-shot. Mm-hmm. These were specific events that I attended and participated in. One was a birthday party for Matthew Mercer. And for this party, and it had probably 20 characters attending this event. And everybody had a character. And he and Matt Key wrote backstories for each of the characters, as well as the overarching plot for the evening. We were actually supposed to do a number of things to... I believe we were trying to prevent the apocalypse, and it was
Okay.
So what was your character?
I was a professor of the occult,
Oh.
and so I had some samples of Lovecraftian. So it had it was set in a Lovecraftian world, and so we've all got different experiences. And I was a professor that had a piece of and I had a prop too. I mean, they created this whole world, all the props for it. I had a little vial with a piece of a tentacle that I had collected, and every character had a different motivation. And somehow throughout the evening, together we were supposed to find clues, which we did, and solve puzzles, and culminate the evening in closing a gate. I think some people were trying to open the gateway to another world to allow Cthulhu to come through, but I think others were trying to close it. And so it was interesting to inhabit that world. It's neat to kind of step out of your own skin.
That sounds like the life version of Arkham Horror.
Yeah,
A little bit. Yeah.
very similar. Very similar. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Cthulhu style mythos and things like that. H.P. Lovecraft has some really, really interesting world crafting that he's done, and I'm really happy that it's open license now, because there's no copyright on it, so anyone can do anything with the IP. And that means there's a huge amount of potential for, like artwork and stories, and especially experiences like you've had, which is super, super good.
Oh, yeah. I could see escape rooms happening.
Oh, my God. That's something
Wouldn't
I
that be
would love to do.
amazing?
I think they already exist. I just don't know where. And if anyone does know, please let us know on our page, Live Action Roleplay Hype, or on our regular page, Live Action Roleplay.
If you find it, we will go and record ourselves trying to get out.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be super fun.
I would be down for that, and I don't like horror.
Me either.
I've helped work on a couple of escape rooms. One of my bucket lists down the line is to actually try and run, or at least build and script an escape room, particularly in the 1940s era kind of of Lovecraft. But that might be something I discuss another time.
Okay, side note, who's done an escape room?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Done a
I
couple.
haven't.
Wait, so you...
I have done it.
You have?
Yeah.
So Ryan is the...
Ryan's the only one.
So we get to try and pop Ryan's cherry on an escape room at some point in time.
So hold on.
So Kai's going to pop my cherry. That's what you heard, guys.
So our original concept for this episode was to try to get Grant to join a LARP, but I think we need to shift focus here and
What?
target Omega.
No, wait.
Escape room.
Wait, what?
Don't know the there should be no
It's live
hesitation.
action
It's
immersion.
amazing.
Come on.
Solving puzzles, I think it'd be right up your alley.
Yeah, I do like solving problems. Puzzles. Problems. I also like solving
Problems too.
You do solve problems.
Yes.
Lots of them.
I'm very much a Ravenclaw.
So much.
Sure.
Yes.
Wait,
yes.
you're Ravenclaw. Oh,
I am
you're
a
the only
Ravenclaw.
Slytherin.
Are you this?
Yeah.
We're going to point at Kai now.
You have to find the right team to do your escape room with, I say. So at least in my experience with escape room, there was 5 of us, so that's pretty large group. We worked like a well-oiled machine because it was a Cypher crew. So well-oiled machine. Like there was barely any instructions given. Like as soon as the door was like closed, we were all running around grabbing things, putting it together. And I mean, I won't explain exactly because if anyone goes, I went to the Panic Room. Is it called the Panic Room? Panic Room? Yeah, in Hollywood. It was like one of the first ones in Hollywood. So I won't give away how we got out, but we got out in 30 minutes with 0 clues. And apparently there's supposed to be like the heartbeat that goes on like in half hour. We didn't even hear the heartbeat because we were already out.
Wow. Yeah, but it's about collaboration and sharing information as well as figuring things out.
Yeah, I think part of it is that I don't like haunts. I mean, like, I like the idea,
An
but I
escape room
get
is
really...
significantly different.
It's
to a
different.
haunt.
Yeah, I don't do that.
There are a couple of ones that I've
are
seen
scary.
there in LA that have like one of the puzzle rooms is a slowly extending chain where there's a zombie on the end of the chain.
Yeah, I heard
and
about
the
that
longer
one.
you spend in that room, the less of the room you gain access to. So, clues become less obvious to you as you spend more time in the room because the zombie can catch you and eat you.
Yeah, that I would require depends.
So
if I
we would
entered
probably
that
put you in the far
That would
corner.
be terrifying.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, like I've seen a couple of horror ones, but most of them I've really experienced just involve kind of. There was this old TV show called The Crystal Maze. In English television, and everyone's giving me funny looks. So clearly, no one knows what I'm talking about. Listeners,
Because you're British.
If you do, that would be awesome. Because the host of this show was I've forgotten the actor's name, but he's the guy who played Riff Raff in Rocky Horror. And he does an extraordinary job of it, but it's very exciting and very fun. So check it out sometime. But more on topic, actually, about that. It wasn't quite an escape room that you were experiencing. It's kind of like more like a pre-arranged, almost murder mystery, or like.
Yeah, definitely. I think that every character had some goal, and many of the goals were in conflict with each other, and so. Throughout the evening, for example, I had a person that I didn't know, who's now a friend of mine. She lied which was part of her own motivation, and said that I stole a key part of the puzzle, some jewel, which she told me later, put down her dress and let it fall all the way down into her shoe, and that's where she kept it for the duration of the evening. But because she told a number of other characters who were also looking for this key element that I had stolen it, people were coming up to me throughout the evening, including one guy who was a gangster. And he pushed me up against a wall and said, "Where's the thing?" And I'm like, I'm playing this mild professor, and I'm like, I have no idea. I'm so sorry. And he's like, "I don't believe you." And he had a gun too, and he's like, and he put the gun, and it was terrifying. He put the gun up against my head, and I said, I truly do not know, and he let me go. But it was an incredibly immersive environment, and we were playing it in this giant house that had secret passages and rooms that were locked until you find the appropriate clue to unlock it.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was a neat experience.
When you were playing this professor, I know you were given, I guess, a set number of objectives, but were you given, I guess, a particular personality that you had to play, or did you come up with one of your own?
Yeah, no, we definitely had a profile of your background, but no specific notes. For example, one person that I knew was a pilot, and all that she knew was that she was adventurous. And from there, she was given the freedom to create whatever character she wanted. The same with me. I was a professor studying the occult, and this number of years of experience, and this is as far as I got, and there's some mysterious disappearance of a colleague of mine, and that's it. So it was up to me, based on whatever costuming I had available, to create a character out of that. So
that sounds super, super cool. The idea of kind of a large scale group of people getting given a brief bit of information about who they are, what they are, and then being given an objective. I've encountered a couple of situations where I've played in those kinds of environments. One was an episode or two ago. We mentioned the Twin Mask Dark Futures experience. And that was very similar, where we were living these weird alternative realities of our characters, where we were all kind of resistance fighters or evil despots and tyrants and things like that, or prisoners, and we all had our specific objectives to try and win that experience, which was really, really fun. It also reminds me of there was this roleplay system that I think is still in effect. I wouldn't surprise me if an edition of it has gone up on Kickstarter over the last couple of years, but it was called Paranoia. And
that's
Paranoia was
classic.
Mm-hmm. Paranoia was specifically made as a one-shot RPG game, but I think it could really work in a LARP experience as well, where all of the different characters are in this dystopian future. There's this evil robot called Mother that is basically controlling everyone. At the start of the game, every player is secretly working for one of these different organizations of resistance, and they all have specific objectives. The group as a whole just as the game is starting, elect all of these different positions of authority, for example, the happiness officer.
If only we had that in real life.
Right? And
I don't know. I think that might be a horrible idea.
I would have so many tickets.
Right?
Yeah.
So
you'd be cited for not being happy.
Yeah.
The happiness officer was this kind of you don't seem to be happy right now, Ryan. Are you inferring that you are not happy in your life that Mother has given you?
No, I'm happy. I'm totally happy.
I don't think
I'm good.
And so they'll follow up with they'll have all of these drugs on them that they have in this.
Oh, I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. Can I have some drugs?
Oh, I see. And then what happens when they disperse the drugs to you?
And
does that change your behavior then?
It could potentially. It kind of varied on the gameplay and things like that. But the secret objective that I had for that game was to try and convince the happiness officer to absolutely use up all of his drugs. So every step of the way that we were taking routes, I was bugging other people in the group, being like, "Are you happy right now?" Riding on the shoulders of the happiness officer and brother or citizen such and such. I don't think this person is happy right now. And they're like, "Oh, well noticed for you, citizen. Good job looking out for other people." And they the other person's like, "What? No, I feel fine." And then gets injected, and they're like, "Whoa!" Wow. So
how's that again?
I'm not repeating that. But regardless, the idea behind the game involved a lot of kind of hijinks and personal goals, but also an overall arcing goal for the group to try and achieve.
Now, I have a question. So, made me think of this, and as LARP enthusiasts, professional LARPers.
Oh God!
Have you played?
Wow,
are we?
Werewolf
I guess we are.
or Mafia? And does that make you? Has your experience in a live action role play situation on a consistent basis made you better at those games? Because really, I have played Werewolf and Mafia, and I'm not great at it. And the reason is I don't like being accused of something that I have not done. So Do you think that that's made you better at those games?
I think the first question here is, I know what Grant is talking about. Ryan and Sin, do you guys know about what this game is?
Yes.
Oh, man, I'm the odd man out this time.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay. So,
okay.
Werewolf and Mafia are these... Would you like to explain it, Grant, or should I?
Go ahead.
Okay, so Werewolf and Mafia are these fun kind of social games where there's a group of, say, like 5, 10, 20 people. Everyone is dealt a card, and the majority of people are regular, normal city folk or villagers or whatever. I'm used to the werewolf version, so I'll just stick with that. And then a few of the people in the group are werewolves. And there's 2 phases of play. There's the daytime where everyone's awake, and then there's the nighttime where everyone closes their eyes and puts their head down, and only the werewolves wake up. They look at each other, they can see who each other are, and then all of them agree silently through hand gestures and things to point at one person. And that one person, the umpire of the game, walks over and puts his hand on their head. And then everyone goes back to sleep again. Everyone wakes up for the next day, and that person immediately falls over dead. And everyone's like, oh no! And they start all of the villagers are now trying to work out who murdered this guy. And, like that sort of stuff.
Based on very little evidence, circumstantial evidence.
Yes, and it becomes this kind of LARPing role-playing experience where players are like throwing information out and the werewolves are intentionally trying to manipulate people, and it keeps going until there are no more villagers left alive. Or
no more werewolves.
Yes, because just before the end of the day, the village as a whole, werewolves and humans, get to execute one person, and they just keep on executing people until they can catch all the werewolves.
So for me personally, it actually doesn't make me better at werewolf, almost for the same reason that you have. Like here's the problem. If I am the werewolf, then I try to be as low-key as possible. Like, I don't tend to really say anything. I'm not as confident. I just try to avoid people's gazes, at which point everyone says, okay, that's a werewolf. I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay. But if I'm not the werewolf, then I can go all balls out and say, okay, well, it's got to be this person or that person, and I can be as logical as I want. But if I'm the guilty party, it's much harder for me to play that. And I remember in one set of games, I drew the werewolf 3 out of 4 times. And I'm like, oh, God, really? But a very successive version of werewolf, I kind of looked at people like, okay, did you really think that I drew werewolf for the 3rd time? And someone said yes. And I'm like, and everyone's like, no, it's just not likely. At that point, I'm like, okay, I could play on that. But like the first time it happens, like, too hard for me.
I have the opposite problem where I am 9 times out of 10 the villager, but people always think I'm the werewolf. And there's different strategies. By the way, never play this game with actors or especially directors.
Oh yeah,
because they are masterful at knowing the human interactions and playing upon those. But yeah, I'm usually a villager, and if I'm too quiet, usually, and I, like you, Ryan, I try and logic it out, and I'm very vocal, but a lot of times if you're too vocal, like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, you become suspicious.
That guy's suspicious. Yeah. Why is he accusing everybody?
So I was actually going to bring up something similar in my childhood.
With werewolves?
Not werewolves, no. Jesus, that would be terrifying.
Well, technically.
Yes, don't you know my dad's like the Puerto Rican mafia king? No, you didn't know that? No? Okay.
Well, this just got really dangerous.
Wow.
JK, have you guys heard of Heads Up 7-Up?
Yes.
Kid? So similar thing where, have you?
I think this is an American thing. For once, I feel called out. I feel excluded, and I don't know how to deal with it.
But basically, it's similar. You have like 5 different people who get picked, and then everyone puts their heads down, thumbs up, and you get to pick like the person that you like to go and like you pinch their finger, and they put their finger down, and then like when everyone's heads goes up, whoever got chosen had to figure out who had chosen them. So anytime I was the one who had to choose someone, I did opposite of you. I would like lock eyes with them and be like, hi. And they would never choose me because I was just deadpan, and like most of the people would choose or most of the kids chose the option that you would do is whenever the person that they picked, they would completely avoid eye contact, which would make it very obvious. So if I were to play this game as an adult, I would probably choose the in your face, like, you think it's me, really? Are you sure? I mean, come on, really? Like, I would do that kind of thing. So
locking eyes with the person that you are interested in, has this actually worked in your adult life?
Always.
Perfect. So
as Sin is looking directly at Grant right now.
With my boyfriend in the other room. That's actually how I got my boyfriend in the first place.
There you go.
what, through eye contact?
Yeah,
and
like
his thumb?
5 times.
Wasn't his thumb, though.
Whoa!
Heads up, 7-Up.
That is not the first date appropriate stuff. That's like date 2. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Depends on the head.
Fair enough. Hey-o.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Drink.
We don't even have any drinks right now.
I know,
We're just
true.
So this is sober podcast?
Sober
what is
pod-
drunk podcast like?
Worse. Better.
Okay.
better and
okay.
worse.
You know, I feel like I have failed my duty as a friend to you, Grant. I should have brought alcohol with me.
Oh,
Like, that was probably a mistake.
Totally fine.
Are we sure we don't have any alcohol in the kitchen? Sorry, I'm looking directly at Sin. So sorry to put you on the spot. You don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to.
But you would have to ask my boyfriend.
Okay,
it's
fair.
His.
Fair. I respect that.
And also,
What kind of alcohol?
It's spiced rum, and Cynthia had a really bad run-in with spiced rum not too long ago.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, just
Pacing
no.
yourself right
Yeah,
now.
we're
Yeah.
just no. I haven't actually even touched that stuff since that podcast.
Oh, okay. So,
Spiced rum. Okay.
yeah, pacing ourselves for Christmas.
Yeah.
Or
And my-
Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa, or any other Yule holiday you have.
Well, I'll be drinking well before that, my birthday.
yes.
So, you guys mentioned Werewolf, and I think that's... actually, what I was going to say is I find it interesting that you're talking about, like, maintaining eye contact, because to my knowledge, when it comes to, like, human psychology, if someone's lying... they will actually maintain more eye contact with the person that they're lying with because it becomes a dominance thing, where if I maintain eye contact with you while I'm lying... I'm trying to force you to look away, and like almost challenging you to not believe me.
Where did you read that?
It's something that I've seen pop up on a couple of like TV shows that have talked about that type of thing. Yeah.
CSI or
Like, I want your references. I want to hear about that because I've read not necessarily opposite, but different tactics. Yeah, there's different ways to spotlight. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
When you see someone kind of quickly look away,
Yeah,
that usually
there's,
is a tell. That
looking
they
up
are-
and looking
Yeah.
left
And
looking right
to be
things like
honest
that.
with you, like everybody does lie differently, and so you have to learn a baseline, which is oftentimes when people do polygraphs, they ask you, "Oh, we're gonna get real interesting here." So when you do a polygraph, they actually baseline your questions first. So they'll ask you like, you know, something that you would actually say the truth and something that you would tell a lie, and they would do it a couple of times before they actually start it. So they're baselining it. So the same thing with looking at people's actions, you're going to want to do a baseline sort of thing and see how that person lies on a normal tangent. So
Interesting thing about polygraph tests. I do remember reading an article. Again, I'd have to look at the source because this was like a long time ago. And an interesting thing kind of related to LARP is that if a person believes that they are a character and they respond in the affirmative for that character, it reads as true.
Yeah.
Even if it's a lie for the actual person.
I've beaten the next step beyond a polygraph, which is a functional fMRI. And you're inside of an MRI that is reading your brain activity. And this is an area of research that they're conducting to go beyond the polygraph and see what areas of the brain are stimulated when a person's lying. And when I managed to beat this machine, the people who ran the machine were so confident they thought for sure that they have caught me. But I was actually thinking, like, just as you described, they ask you a series of questions. And it was like, had to do with the ring. You can either take the ring or not take the ring. So I said, was the ring taken? Did you take the ring? Did the ring leave the box? And so they ask you this the same thing over and over and over again, but in different ways. And so what I had to do to beat it was convince myself that I had not taken the ring, and like continue to tell myself this. So that was the way that I managed to beat the thing. And I think, though, as far as that will allow you to beat the brain activity one, but for the polygraph, that also measures your
Heart rate.
Funny enough, it measures your heart rate and your galvanic skin response, your sweat, basically. So
And
those are actually
who-
harder for me to beat.
There are people who beat them, though.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're a replicant.
Oh, well. What's a tortoise?
I was going to say, that was lying 101 for those of you who need that skill in LARP.
Right. So I actually have a couple of quick questions because I threw out on the ether that we're doing the interview right now, and a couple of people have some questions for you, Grant.
Oh, okay.
That are related to roleplay and things like that.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind me asking them.
Go ahead.
Cool. One of our previous guests, Adam Poisel, actually asks, have you ever played Vampire or Vampire the Masquerade? In any kind of form. LARP, roleplay?
Don't think so.
No? Is it something that you would consider playing, or Vampire is not really your thing?
I would consider it.
Yeah?
Although I don't know much about the game itself. So,
Cool.
But I like vampires.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are they your favorite supernatural creature? Or
Oh, hard to say. I've never... What is my favorite supernatural creature? I don't know. I haven't thought of it. I mean, we did, like we were saying earlier, we did zombies on Mythbusters, which I wouldn't say are remotely my favorite. I'm terrified of zombies.
I could do one of these right now while you're talking.
What?
Wait. Give him a high five.
Wait,
On the podcast, that could sound like anything. Like you slap any part of my body. There was a high five.
Whoa, okay.
That was a high five for the record. Thank you.
It was a high five to his palm as opposed to anywhere else for the record.
That was a high five for Cohen Christian, who's a LARPer that a number of us know.
Okay.
There
you go, by proxy. Cohen.
Yeah, that my character had to execute.
I'm sure Cohen will be very grateful for that.
Ooh. Wow.
He was playing an assassin in Twin Mask. The problem was he said, well, I'm an assassin. I'm supposed to kill people in my town.
Were you an authority figure in the town?
I was the Duke.
Okay.
And so it was kind of
the Besticus.
Oh, Esticus the Besticus.
Not so Besticus.
Not so Besticus.
He got caught and killed.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I had to execute him. I didn't want to because in my head it's like, you're like my protege, but you also did this really stupid thing. So I have to execute you. And in this game, because there is reincarnation, or not reincarnation, but like the ability to possibly come back, I thought, okay, I'm going to kill him once. He's going to come back, and he did it. And I'm like, no! Oh, God.
Yep.
But, I had to be the governor, so that's who I was.
Yeah, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You mentioned briefly about zombies. Because it seemed like you were talking briefly about a Mythbuster episode, right?
Oh, yeah. In that episode, we were testing the best way to get away from a zombie horde. And assuming that they're not, rage zombies, which I think we all agree, there's no way to get away from rage zombies. It's just, you're dead. But we're talking about like Walking Dead, shambling zombies.
Rather than the Running Dead.
Yeah.
that
little known spinoff that didn't really
Right?
go anywhere. The funny thing is, it's significantly easier than you would think to summon a zombie horde, particularly in San Francisco. All you have to do is go to Craigslist and say, I need 100 zombies, and 100 people show up in their own makeup, in their own clothing. And the people that don't have makeup, there are other people there who do makeup on each other.
Necromancers take note. Craigslist is a good place to find an undead horde.
Yes.
And zombies take care of each other.
Yeah, they do. And so
That just sounds so wrong.
they really care about, being zombies. And we didn't really have to give them any instruction whatsoever as to how to behave as a zombie. and they came up with their own behaviors. I mean, some were drooling, others were just lumbering and bumping into things. And so our test involved having a population density of, say, a rural area and trying to escape these guys. And then shrinking the playing field to simulate a higher population density, like maybe a more urban center, until we got up to the highest population density in the world, like Hong Kong, for example. And having done this, now intellectually, I know there are no zombies, at least currently.
Yeah.
And that these are just people in zombie makeup.
Yep. So you know it's not real.
In my head, it's not real.
Yeah.
And yet, when I was faced with this horde and I ran up into a wall of them, I was terrified. I stopped and I stumbled. Like you do. Like, you know,
Yeah.
all those people in the
You
movies.
did the token, like, ankle trip. Like,
Stumbled. I did. I tried to spin. I tripped over my ankles and I got eaten.
Man.
So, I mean, as far as a role play experience, it was, for me, as close as I could come to being in a Walking Dead situation.
And you didn't have, from the sounds of it, like, because all of these people kind of knew what they were doing, did you guys really need to coach them at all on what you was expected for them to be zombies?
Not at all. We didn't give them any direction whatsoever. I think all we said was, be zombies. And they all instinctively knew exactly what a zombie should do. And, you know, in addition to the moaning and the really freaky thing that you don't get from watching zombies on TV, when you have 100 people moaning all together in like, it is frightening on a very basic level.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I did manage to get away from the zombies. I built in the second wave. So the first time, I got eaten. Just straight up eaten.
Uh-oh.
But we had a round 2. And for that, I built a robot that had a mannequin in it and lights and sound, and it distracted all the zombies. And I ran around and managed to escape.
Why am I not in the slightest bit surprised? Even though I did make the replicant comment that you created a robot to save yourself in the zombie apocalypse.
Yes, it's kind of my thing.
Makes perfect sense.
You know, think about it. It's they're impervious to being bitten.
Yep.
Inorganic. So there you go.
So it just goes to show when it comes to like creating a large group of these things. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm going to pun. So you could say that friends who decay together stay together. Then, huh?
Oh boy! If we were drinking, that would require you a drink there, sir.
Yes. Shot. You get a virtual shot.
So those of you who want to see that episode, we actually found it on Hulu. What was the title of it?
I think it's our zombie special.
Yep, it's called Zombie Special.
Zombie Special.
Perfect.
So you actually get to see Grant for half a second bite it.
Yeah, and yeah, I think they show it again in slow motion as I try and do my. Because I ran into a wall and I'm trying to spin and get away, and it just all happened so fast. And it's even thinking about it now, the image that flashes into my head is me being on the ground and them closing on me, and it's terrifying.
See, that's terrifying. I did the Fear of the Walking Dead experience at Comic-Con, which is basically it was right when the show first started. So not The Walking Dead, but Fear of the Walking Dead, and it was an abandoned church. It's okay. So I think it was an abandoned church, and you walk in, you get to see like some of the scenes that they showed like in the first opening scenes in the season, and I knew that there was a zombie that was going to be there, and I knew that like it was going to be wandering around. It was going to be totally fine. I still had one zombie scare the crap out of me, and like he was just standing there, and I turned around, and I was like, okay, zombie. So I would do very bad in the zombie apocalypse, probably.
Yep. Okay, so we've asked about vampires, and we got a nice story about zombies.
Yes.
Sorry, Poisel.
Grant, you've played a few different types of RPGs, and like, have you ever played in any longer campaigns or anything like that for D&D? And
I did a brief campaign, Fury's Reach.
Yeah.
On the D&D Twitch channel.
Cool.
And so Rudy was my DM, And that was fun. I died, spoiler, but I also came back to try and kill the party again.
Great.
Oh.
But yeah, I had like...
More zombies.
I had one of the goals of that character, who was an amateur swashbuckler, was to steal... There was a map that was like the Maltese Falcon that everybody was after. And so the party had the map. Yeah, the MacGuffin, exactly. And the party had the map, but this character wanted it for himself to become a professional swashbuckler, like deliver it to the pirate captain, and thus gain enough mojo to become a professional, to be elevated to a professional pirate.
So he was doing it for renown then, huh?
Yeah, he was doing it to secure his future.
Fun.
And he ended up dying.
I think those are always really fun aspects to kind of throw into games. To you should always give your LARP characters, your D&D characters, and you should work with the storytellers and the directors and dungeon masters of your game to work out individual goals for your character. And sometimes they might not be things that you personally decide upon, but are things that are kind of given to you. Was that objective that you were working on, was that something that Rudy came up with, or you and he worked together on? Or
so Rudy slipped me a piece of paper. He had prepped me and gave me a bunch of higher level spells, and basically said, so when the time comes, this will become evident what you are supposed to do. So I'd studied those, and then he slipped me a piece of paper during our campaign and said, your goal is to kill the party. Like, you have to kill the party.
Oh, wow. Since I'm on the following season, on Fury's Fate, the aftermath of Fury's Reach.
Yes.
And I also have Rudy as my DM. The interesting part is that I worked with Rudy. Well, it's more that Rudy had an idea, and I was trying to implement like parts of where I thought I could take the character.
Yeah.
And right now, there's this kind of like disconnect between the way I play and I guess the way I come across, because people have figured out, okay, there's something with this character that he's hiding like so much of the plot, because I have to hide 75% of what I'm actually doing, even with the rest of the cast.
Right.
So when
the cast had no idea what was going to happen.
Awesome.
Yeah, they had no idea
that I was going to try and slaughter all of them.
Cool.
I can't say what my spoilers, because my
nope.
Yeah, my episode is active.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's I think that it certainly enhanced the experience, the storytelling experience, to be able to have this side goal, which is not and not the main party's goal, and contrary to the main party's goal.
I like that a lot. I've always enjoyed little situations in any kinds of games where they're like, oh, we're raiding this horde, and you have this particular goal of getting this one shiny bauble that is particularly special, kind of thing. And like, you make a point of like, as soon as everyone's inside the room, you're like frantically looking at it as everyone else is like, goal, and just like shoving it all into their pockets, and you're like, I'll just take that and put that here, and done. Okay, so the reason why I asked that kind of question, and I actually would like to follow up on that question there. So was Fury's Reach, was it?
Fury's Reach.
Okay, and Fury's End is the current one, right?
Fury's Fate is the current one, yeah.
My mistake. Okay, so in Fury's Reach, was that your first ever experience playing like a pen and paper roleplay game, or have you played a few before that?
I did a one-shot for a birthday party. And that was my first true D&D experience.
Cool.
And that was really, it was kind of a revelation in that what were we trying to do? Trying to escape some dungeon. And, there's a dwarf, and he was like, go ahead. And I'm like, I'm not leaving you behind. And so we managed to save him. And at the end, I was almost in tears from that experience of all of us making it through, saving the day. And it was certainly something that I still remember that had a huge effect on me.
In LARP, there is this concept called bleed. I don't know if you're familiar with that, where a person's experience in-game becomes so memorable that it affects them out of character. I mean, that sounds like the most intense version of it, but have you had other experiences of bleed that you've had?
Even with acting.
Even with acting, actually.
Yeah, like have you ever played perhaps like a role that you've had to act out something and then felt some very real emotions afterwards?
I think not really, but in the sense that when I was playing Sulu on our web series Star Trek Continues, my experience with being immersed in that environment, being a kid who grew up with these characters and grew up with this ship, the Enterprise, and the idea of being a crew member on that, setting foot onto that set, onto the bridge set for the first time I was giddy. I could not stop smiling. Like I blew a few takes because I was so excited that I was in my Sulu costume saying Sulu lines, like, phasers locked. And at my station.
Were you quite a Trekkie as a kid?
I grew up with, and as an Asian American kid, particularly a Trekkie, because there weren't a lot of TV shows at the time that featured Asian American characters. Certainly not in hero roles. There were thugs and gangsters and kung fu guys, but not really like Star Trek, where this guy Sulu was not only part of the main crew, but he was a hero and he flew the ship. He had an important role. So that had a huge effect on little me, seeing a guy like me who was a good guy on TV.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Also, as someone who's Asian American, I do get very influenced by that. So nowadays I try to make sure that I try to get awareness of who's out there and make sure that all those people at least in development are kind of put in front of funders or people that I work with, because that kind of representation is important and does totally affect people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, a couple of these questions, because apparently we're having a few more running in, and I'd like to try and get as many of these kind of handled as possible. Sure. James Medina is asking if you've ever been a munchkin before, and what he means by that is, have you ever played a roleplay system or something like that and focused a little bit more on being a badass in the rules rather than necessarily a deep role-playing character?
I see. Yeah. When I was playing Fury's Reach, that was really my first experience with a combat system and all of the intricacies that go with having different skills and modifiers, and so I felt that I was I needed a tutorial. I called on my friend Lauren Markland, who's a D&D expert. I'm like, Lauren, please help me figure this out. And so she's like, okay, well, this is what you have to do. And and so she helped me with that, so that I didn't have to focus so much on the rules, because I feel for the storytelling experience, that was more what I was in it for, was to be in that world and to interact with my friends.
Cool.
But also to be in that world interacting with my friends as not myself. And I feel like I wanted to be only as good at the technical part as I had to.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Because I just didn't want to get... Because I could easily see how you could get caught up in that.
Yes. Oh, gosh. Kind of focusing more on the ROLL of roleplay instead of the ROLE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and that, doesn't sound like super fun to me.
Fair.
Although
awesome.
I guess in live streaming, since all three of us have done the live stream, it's almost easy to get caught up in all of those mechanics.
It can be, yeah. I would agree with that. It's exciting to be a powerful character, and when it's all an imaginary game, whether you're actually physically swinging around and just calling large numbers while you hit someone, or just making gestures, or rolling dice and just getting high numbers on it. It's a dopamine thing. It's exciting to be a badass, even if you're being a badass in just your imagination.
Unless you have metal dice. I'm not calling out anyone in particular, but no, I am. He knows who he is.
Did the metal dice not roll well?
Oh, no. Rolls extremely well. All of his hits always...
Oh, a little too well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sean Bonilla it was asking if you have a favorite like kind of class to play in an RPG. Like, do you like magic users? Do you like frontline fighters? Or do you like to be like the sneaky guy? Or do you have some other kind of predisposition that you'd like to be in some kind of fantasy world?
I think for the one shot, I was a ranger.
Yeah.
Ranger elf. Mm-hmm. And I think I liked that combination of being fighter plus kind of a little bit of magic.
Yeah.
But I think that I tend towards being more of a frontline brawler than a thief or anything like that.
Do you feel that that would be the case if you were like dropped into the world of Tolkien right now? Like, would you endeavor to try and be a badass from the front lines, or what do you think you would?
Interesting, because when you put it like that,
that's a whole other
maybe
thing.
even not like you getting dropped in, but if you grew up in one of those kinds of worlds, how would you imagine Grant as this kind of like, in a fantasy world? What would you be? Do you think?
Interesting, because when I think about it from who I am in this world, and trying to transport that person into another world, it's definitely not a fantasy frontline fighter.
Yeah,
it's more of like a magic user or someone who has a range weapon, like not an in-your-face kind of a character. But if I were to choose for myself,
makes a crossbow or a catapult or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's probably more where I would end up if I were dropped into that world.
I'm curious, like for the rest of the hosts, like where would you put yourselves in that fantasy world?
Which fantasy world? Are we talking
Whichever.
Specifically Tolkien? Are we talking like Destiny? Are we talking like where?
Okay.
My brain went to Destiny when you guys started talking about warlocks and thieves. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where would you put yourself in that world?
So when I play Destiny, I play the warlock. I play an alien warlock, which to me is a...
Wait, are we talking about Destiny, the video game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I haven't played. So what is a warlock in Destiny entail?
Oh,
Guns
so...
and magic.
Guns and magic.
Yeah. So they're more magic than anything. So you have the rogue, right? Is it rogue or thieves?
You've
what
got
they call
hunters.
them? Yeah, hunters. There you go.
Titans and warlocks, which are more the agile thief characters than the tanks,
and then the magic user.
I see.
Yeah.
So the magic user doesn't have a whole lot of power attacks, but it's really powerful when you have. I rolled with 2 tanks, so it's really powerful when the 2 tanks like run out of ammo and they have to go catch something, and then you come behind and blast everything, and then you run out and they come back in. Like, but Tolkien wise,
cough, elf.
Shut up. Probably.
There's nothing
probably,
wrong to admitting that you would be an elf.
Probably Rivendell. Yeah, Rivendell. There we go.
Yeah.
Or Lothlorien.
So would you be more of like a city elf, or would you be more of like a
wood elf?
Not wood. No, definitely city.
City.
Definitely city elf. No, do not put me in the middle of woods.
She likes the luxuries of not being around spiders.
Yeah, thank you.
Fair
Thank
enough.
you. I appreciate that.
Fair enough.
But then you also have Changeling too. That's also a whole other fantasy world where I wouldn't play an elf at all. So, moving on. Kai, what would you play?
I'm gonna come back to that. Ryan, you go ahead.
Okay, so for me, it would probably be either a psionic or scion, or usually I tend to go with like cleric wizard combinations. Oddly enough, like it's the type of character I'm playing on Fury's Fate right now, so that character is what I would be playing.
So in Tolkien as well, like.
Well, in Tolkien, like in my brain, I would just be an average guy. I would be an average guy that maybe would like to make swords. I know that sounds really, really weird, but in my fantasies, I'm not looking at being the hero. I kind of think of who can I be to support all of those great adventurers, and I know that sounds really, really weird. Like, to not be the person in the front line. It's like, no, I want to be able to tell all the stories of my sword did this for that person.
Sure. Because you are involved in the adventure, but not directly at
getting
risk
killed.
of getting...
Exactly.
I am.
Sure. I'm the kebab maker. I am not the kebab.
And you have my axe. No, really. You just have my axe. Take my axe and leave and go fight the bad guys.
Yes.
I'll be safe in my
Please
my
take
shire.
my axe.
So
I will sharpen
that
the
leaves you, Kai.
So it's interesting. I, as a kid, I loved. There was this. I think I've told this story briefly before, so I'll make it real abridged. There is an animated movie called Flight of Dragons by Ralph Bakshi. It's a really fun, a little dated cartoon show, like movie, that has some beautiful ending points to it. And I feel like it really shaped my experience of fantasy in a very strong way. Particularly in the idea of like magic versus reality and technology and things like that. I played a lot of paladins, and to this day, I still find myself playing very religiously pious and like faith-driven characters in a lot of the games that I play. The thing is, I am an atheist, and I have no actual faith of my own. So it's very interesting that I always slip into those roles, even when I don't intend them to. If I'm letting the natural roleplay of my characters go, I always seem to get whisked up in some kind of religion and end up like basically being some like shield using or like defender of the lost kind of style characters that have also been touched by faith that inspires them. And I don't know why that keeps happening, but it keeps freaking happening.
What alignment do you normally find yourself playing?
So I'm very fond of... lawful good I can play, but I don't like playing it lawful stupid. I love playing lawful evil.
Ooh.
Because lawful
Wow.
evil results in a lot of very fun opportunities. Because if you're upholding justice, but then punishing people, like... a perfect example is if you're an anti-paladin walking up to a town gate and being like, I want to get in. And they're like, the town is closed. And it's like, fine, okay, I am a member of this faith, let me the hell in. And they're like, well, we know you've got some money, so how about you just pay us and we'll let you in. And the anti-paladin is like, all right, well, I'm going to... I disagree with this because of my lawful attitude, and I feel that they deserve punishment. Very well. Here is your money, sir. Pull out coin purse, cast cause disease on it, and give them leprosy through the coins as I walk through the gate.
I see.
That is lawful evil, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You've punished the people who were breaking the law. You've punished them in a very egregious manner, and you've gotten what you've wanted at the same time.
And let's be fair, they deserved it.
Basically.
They were trying to extort money from you.
In Dystopia Rising, I do not play a lawful evil character. I play a very like chaotic good character in that game. But I feel like I play a more lawful neutral, lawful evil in my Twin Mask character. So,
What alignments are you predisposed to?
yeah.
Lawful neutral.
Those ones are
Yeah,
really fun
that's-
because you have a lot of variety, but you don't have to be like crazy slapstick.
Yeah, I don't tend towards lawful good because it's not. I think that it's not the goody two shoes. It's not. I find that that's not as interesting, and it doesn't give me as many choices.
Yeah, no
as
one
being
wants
a
to be
neutral
Superman,
character.
basically.
Yeah, but I'm not like true neutral or anything like that. It's definitely like
True neutral
Play by
strikes
the
me as like being
rules.
almost apathy.
No.
I've seen I've seen some people go way far on it and have like a kind of a degree of apathy where they're like, I don't really care about a lot of things, and I feel that might necessarily be an example of playing it badly. Like when people play chaotic chaotic neutral characters.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, I'm going to do this stupid thing like a chicken on my head. It's like playing a bad Malkavian in Vampire the Masquerade, which you just get to act like a stupid idiot all the time.
I played true neutral in my Starfinder game as a captain, and it's interesting because she's not necessarily like give or take one way or another. She's usually all about herself. So it's
interesting.
It's neutral either way. Like she's not going to play it towards the evil side or play it towards the good. It's going to be
More
all about
what is beneficial to her.
Yeah,
her and hers at the time.
Yep,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
With my original Twin Mask character Sicaril, in game 1 he was true neutral, and that's because he was a party noble that could just pretty much buy anything, and he was pretty spoiled. But over time, when he became more and more responsible for people, he started to predispose himself towards good and then towards lawful. But basically through 7 years of roleplay, that's how he ended up being. But he started off as all about himself. But true neutral in my head is not apathetic at all, and in fact it allows you to play both sides of many things, and so it gives you in my head the most options.
Cool. Before we come to a close, because I know we're getting
Yeah.
pretty much on top of it.
Yeah.
Are we? Oh, damn.
Do you, Grant, do you read many books or like listen to audiobooks or anything like that? Have you had the chance to kind of consume a lot of other kind of fantasy worlds other than potentially Tolkien?
Not many. And, it's trying to maintain the type of schedule that I have, it's definitely prohibitive of,
I would expect so.
An extended type of investment of time like that. I mean, I've read a few things, here and there. Like it's hard not to read Ready Player One or Snow Crash or things like that, which are. And I'm sort of an obsessive kind of person, so once I start, I must go until I finish.
Oh dear, I have several really good fantasy novels that I'm going to tell you after this show by an author called Brandon Sanderson that you might hate me because they're really good for just going down the rabbit hole on. But Trevor actually asks, which is your favorite fantasy setting? And you can answer that in any way, like books, movies, RPGs, video games, whatever you like. Just what is your favorite fantasy setting that you've ever encountered as a world?
As a world, yeah. It's interesting that these days we have so many worlds available to us, and I think for me, my favorite is well, not quite dystopian, but near future, like Blade Runner.
Yeah.
That's, I think, my favorite aesthetic. And as a kid growing up in LA, like I look at that world, and it makes so much sense to me that that's what this culture and this mix of ethnicities could become. And so it's when I watch that, when I consume that media, I look at it and say, yeah, I could see myself living there.
Cool. Very cool.
All right. And thank you for joining us on Live Action Roleplay. If you like what you hear, like what we do, subscribe to us on Live Action Roleplay, the Facebook page, or our more active group, Live Action Roleplay Hype. We are also available on iTunes and other places. I guess there are a couple of other new places that we're a part of. Blueberry, Stitcher are also places where you can catch us. So you can subscribe to us on any of those platforms. Grant, what are your social medias so people can see what you do?
Sure. I am on Twitter at Grant Imahara. Same on Instagram. I have an official page on Facebook. And those are basically where you can find me.
Awesome. James, who is helping us with audio, how do they contact you?
Let me get to a microphone here.
Good idea.
You could look at my store, ancientarchivesapparel.com. I'm also on Facebook, Ancient Archives Apparel, and on Instagram as well, Ancient Archives Apparel.
Perfect.
All right.
So just Instagram as usual, guys. Cynthia__Marie.
And for Kai here, it would be Commissar Props on Instagram. That's KOMMISSARPROPS.
All right, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Ryan Omega. In Twitter, it's Ryan OMGA. And catch me on Fury's Fate on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the D&D Twitch channel. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye, guys.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, you guys. That was fun.
All right. Thank you for joining us. I know you're really busy, so thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. So until next time. Bye.
Yeah.